Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to what I laughingly call my little studio. It's been a few weeks since I recorded my little chat, and in that space of time I've had a small number of new subscribers, and I thank you for subscribing and hope you find something of interest over the course of time. I suppose really because I call my channel Station Master's Choice, a lot of people have found it thinking it's a lot of railway stuff. Yes, I am a station master, as most of you know, on the Kent and East Sussex Railway, but there will be comparatively few railway things, because apart from my work at the railway I don't get to go and do many railway orientated things. Mainly what I produce here is under my Bernie Film pseudonym, what I call Walkumentaries, where I just literally go for a walk and I talk about the things that I find, sometimes with a bit of research beforehand, but most of the time finding out the information afterwards and adding it as I'm getting better at using my editing technology and what have you. I have made a small investment in a new studio microphone, which I hope will keep the sound a bit cleaner, and it's this monstrosity there, which is called a mantis for obvious reasons. But I hope it does the trick anyway. Being an amateur, I don't want to spend an awful lot of money on a lot of professional equipment that quite frankly I probably wouldn't know how to use. Basically this is just a forward to this video that I'm putting together now. I did my walk around Caernarfon, and there were a couple of other video shots that I took on the side of the old railway line through the town. They were spoilt really by the sheer volume of the wind and what have you, so initially I decided not to include them. Then when I got down and started walking around the Slate Quay, I began to think, where does Slate come into this? Because Caernarfon is not somewhere that you normally associate as being a port connected with the slate industry, like Port de Norwich or Port Penryn. So since I got home I've had a closer look, and in actual fact there's a little story goes with the railways around Caernarfon and the Slate Quay. So I thought, you know what, I've got just enough now. I think I could probably make a little documentary video about that, and let me get it quite clear before we start. It's just a chat about the story of the Slate Quay and the railways in Caernarfon. It's not meant to be a historic thing. It's not meant to be full of facts and figures. There are places you can go to get those if you're interested, which brings me to my acknowledgements. I've had very kind permission to use certain photographs and diagrams in this film, which I'll try and acknowledge individually on each one that I use, but generally can I please thank Don Metherell for allowing me to use a diagram of Bangura from his, I believe, late father Geoffrey Metherell's collection, and also a very, very big thanks to Nick Catford from the disusestations.org.uk website, who not only has given me permission to use the unattributed diagrams and photos that I want from their website, he's also given me permission to use photographs attributed to John Mann, for which he owns the copyright. So thank you very much, Nick. And look, please, if you want a channel to go to, if you want a website to go to see all sorts of interesting information and photographs about disused stations, disusestations.org.uk. It is a brilliant source of reference, and I thank all those involved on that site for the hard work that they do, because it really does make a difference. So without further ado, you'll be pleased to know you won't be seeing my face anymore. You'll be hearing my voice all the way through, because it basically, as I said, it's a bit of a documentary, so I'm overdubbing voice onto the screen. But I hope just running through the story just makes things a little bit more interesting for you. And for those who might be interested in the rise and fall of a railway in a particular place, Caernarfon is quite an interesting place to have a look at that. So I hope you're able to watch it all the way through, and I hope you enjoy it. Now all I've got to do is to start getting out filming again, because I haven't got any material left to show you. But that's down to me. The Avon Seant, River Seant, flowing out to the sea through Caernarfon. Quiet, pretty yachts there moored, and look at those chains over on the bottom right hand side. A sign of things past? Yes, most certainly. This, where I'm standing, is the Slate Quay, and it got my interest because I thought to myself, slate? How on earth do they export slate from here? I know not of any quarry that had a railway line linked here. You know, there's Port de Norwich, Port Penryn, but Caernarfon, slate? It didn't seem to fit somehow. When I did a little bit of digging, however, I began to find out some very interesting things about the Slate Quay, and that led to looking at the development of the railways through Caernarfon, which I'm going to share the basic story of with you now. And so let's take a closer look, shall we? The development of Caernarfon as a port of any importance really begins in the early 1800s. Strange that I should be showing you this picture, therefore, of the brand new Welsh Highland Railway terminus building in Caernarfon from a photo taken in 2020. Yes, September 2020. I'd forgotten how long ago it was now. And I want you to imagine, hard though it might be, all of that area covered with a grassy bank leading down to the right, almost the water's edge. And in the early 1800s all of that was cleared and levelled because the people in the town here wanted to create not only just a harbour, but they'd found a group of quarries wanting to export slate, and this was where they wanted to export it from. And so the ground was all cleared, and that big retaining wall that you see there was created, and the 3 foot, I think it was 3'6" gauge Nantlle tramways laid their tracks from the Nantlle Valley all the way down here to Caernarfon and what became known as the Slate Quay. Now, in order to facilitate the fundraising for all of these works and to organise it, an Act of Parliament in the late 1790s established the Harbour Trust, and that's still responsible for organising everything here and controlling the harbour. And this building that we're looking at, that I said in my main Caernarfon video had some age, is not quite as old as I thought it might be. It actually dates from 1840. This is the headquarters of the Harbour Trust, and we're looking at it sideways on. During a lot of these renovation works, that apparently some of the original rails from the tramway have been found embedded in the car park. Whether they're original or whether they're from the standard gauge lines, I don't know. I never found any anyway, that's for sure. But yes, so the building does have a history and still is the headquarters of the Harbour Trust. And turning back to the quayside, I did muse as I was walking along whether some of these metal fittings against the side were from the original harbour and the quay, and the answer to that is, from old photographs I've seen, most certainly yes. And these white things, these bollards, were where ships would put their ropes around when they tied up. And quite a few of these flagstones you see right at the water's edge, old photographs show them to be probably original too. So there's still a bit of stuff here to see. If once you've done your research, you know what you're looking for. I just wish I'd have done it before going to Caernarfon, but then that's half the fun, isn't it? You go to a place, you see something of interest, and you want to find out a bit more about it afterwards. It's a nice view though, looking towards the castle. So, having cleared all of this grassy bank and built the retaining wall, the first rails arrived in Caernarfon with the opening of the Nantlle tramway in 1826. Worked only by horses right the way through its working life. It was cut back in 1870 to a transshipment siding at Nantlle station, which was at the end of a branch to Penagros, opened in 1870. But where that remained unique was that it remained horse-worked until the end of the branch line in 1963, and in actual fact became the last British Railways horse-worked location. Just a bit of an aside, if you want any more information about Nantlle and the surrounding area, do go to disusstations.org.uk. Much more information and photographs there, as indeed about the railways in Caernarfon. Obviously in 1870 the railways had arrived from the south. We had one coming up from Avon Wen to a station at Pant, just south of the river bridge over the Sound, and then the Nantlle tramway was converted to standard gauge so the wagons could get into the Slate dock. Photographs that I'm afraid I'm not free to show here from the early 1900s show still quite good activity as far as the goods wagons are concerned into the dock. The other railway line from the south was actually a branch from Llanberis, which terminated at a little station on the opposite side of the main road from the branch from Avon Wen. The main railway station in Caernarfon was built for the arrival of the railways in 1852. Sorry, a few dates here I know, but they've got to be put in. Everything in the area was taken over by the London and North Western in 1870, which came up with the idea of the Caernarfon town line. That was when, having excavated all these earthworks, there was enough space left to actually construct a tunnel underneath the mace, whichever way it's pronounced, to link all these lines up. And so the two lines from the south, rather unusually, were not linked. They remained as separate entities along the retaining wall, through the tunnel and into Caernarfon station, which was expanded quite significantly between 1870 and 1895. I'll show you a diagram of the final station a little bit later on. It just seems rather strange, you know, that you could have two trains leaving Caernarfon for the south side by side, and then as soon as they got over the bridge over the Sound, one would diverge off to the right and go to Avon Wen, the other one would go left to Llanberis. Unfortunately, that all closed between sort of 1963 and 1965, and the tunnel was left abandoned until it was reopened as a road tunnel that you see in the picture here quite a bit later. Just going back to the photograph of the Welsh Highland Railway terminus for a moment or two, you can almost see how two tracks would go side by side around the corner, hugging the base of the retaining wall all the way round. Just one other note of interest: on the road opposite, which is to the right of the Welsh Highland building, was at one time the factory and works of the De Winton Company. Now they were famous for making boilers, locomotive boilers, marine, that kind of thing, and I suppose one of their claims to fame is that they made a particular type of vertical boiler locomotive, which is often known as a coffee pot. Just a little aside for you. Well, I'm at the northern end of the old tunnel now, well, just a little bit further along from it, and you can see quite clearly where the track of the old railway line comes along, and a gateway, I wonder to where, and you can see now quite clearly where it would have come along. There's a nice flower still up there. I had to stop the soundtrack here because the wind was just getting too much, but you can see where the twin single tracks of the line, both lines from Llanberis and Avon Wen, were hugging the base of the retaining wall as it went up underneath the bridge and into Caernarfon station. And then looking in the other direction, you can imagine the steam, smoke belching out from the locomotives as they burst forth from the northern portal of the Victoria Tunnel. And now we move on to the station itself. Come and join me. Well, here we are at what was the southern station throat, and you'll notice this building on the left here. That's still there, as we'll see in the current photograph. There it is, just between the station canopy and the top of the signal box in the centre there. And the retaining wall behind the bay platform that you see there, well, that's obviously gone. When you compare it to the way this particular wall here that we're walking beside has been built, it's a different wall, but it's more or less in the same place as the one that you were looking at in the photograph. The church, of course, is easily identifiable from that photograph. It feels just as though we are walking along the track on that bay platform, and as of course we get closer to the end of the pathway here, what we in actual fact do, we come up slap bang against the roadway as it is now. But I'm going to show you a photograph of Caernarfon station prior to its closure, like it was back in the 50s or so, which was taken from a broadly similar position. Now, those of you who take a look at the cars straight away will say 1950s, he's off his head. It's got to be 1930s or 40s with those old cars there. Look at the writing above the station name, and it says quite clearly British Railways, and that didn't exist until 1948, so I think probably early 1950s is a reasonably good guess, and the station remained more or less in this condition until final closure in around 1972. This is a diagram of the station as it was in about 1913, and you can see the church down in the bottom centre left there, and quite clearly see where that retaining wall went alongside the platform. It also shows clearly the line going down and curving round towards the top left of the picture to the Victoria Dock. That was opened in 1874 and took virtually all the trade except for copper and slate away from the Slate Quay, and nowadays it appears to be a little marina of some kind. So here we are as it is today, Morrison's supermarket, and as we pan around to the left a little bit, you can see where that branch line went round from the goods yard and down to the Victoria Dock. And as we turn round and have a look down back towards the railway bridge, we'll have a look finally at another view of the station, and we'll see all the cars now parked nice and neatly where possible in the space where there was once all of these railway lines and those sheds, and it's all been swept away. Such is life, I guess, but what a sad ending to what was once a very, very busy station indeed. Now, as I said before, Caernarfon was at the end of a branch line, and the well, you call it a branch line, it didn't branch off really until Menai Bridge, but the official branch started in Bangor, and you can see from this station diagram here Bangor in its final state, when it was still quite busy and before the closing of the Bethesda branch in the early 60s. You'll see there that the line from Caernarfon would come in from the right hand side as we look at it. Trains probably coming into the down main platform, platform 2, and then reversing over the crossover to depart from platform 1, or looking at that, perhaps they came across a crossover somewhere and went straight into platform 1. Anyway, that's where they started back to Caernarfon from. And you'll see platform 3, which was added for the Bethesda branch, which went out to the left and down over quite a nice viaduct. And sadly that branch closed around about 1963. Now I think freight finished in 63, the branch itself must have closed in about 1950 something. But anyway, that was where the branch trains to Caernarfon started from. And here are those cars parked, as I mentioned earlier. Actually, where we're starting to walk down now, again we're following the lines to the end of the old platform, and the goods lines and goods shed over to the right. There are pipe dreams, I think they are, to be quite honest, but people are talking about wanting to reopen a branch line of sorts to Caernarfon, and most of the track bed, to be quite honest, is still there and wouldn't take much to reinstate. However, not at this bit, and I just wonder where in Caernarfon you would actually find somewhere to put the railway line now. These pipe dreams also include reinstating the line all the way to Avon Wen. Now, just supposing you demolished all of this lot and built a new railway line. There's the Welsh Highland Railway. What an exciting thought though. Mixed gauge track between Caernarfon and Dinas. Oh, exciting thought, isn't it? Anyway, thank you very much for bearing with me. This is the first sort of documentary type thing of this kind that I've made. In actual fact, I think I've made such a pig's ear of it, it may very well be the last. But anyway, you the viewers will be the best judge of that. I've tried to tell a little bit of the story of the railways in Caernarfon and make it interesting without being too full of facts and figures. Like I say, this is a new venture for me, probably just a one-off, but it was a useful way of using up some of the footage that I've made. If you want any more information, as I said before, disuserailways.org.uk is a mine of information, about all sorts of closed railways and that, and there's plenty of other resources available online. So if I whetted your appetite, do go and investigate further. As for me, well, I'm off to have a think about where I can start filming next. The longer evenings are here, the lighter mornings not quite. So if there's a bit more than a fortnight before the next video, please bear with me, but we'll be out there filming again soon. So bye for now.